it's not new in terms of what it is teaching, but it is new as far as the world's concerned, because it has always been around, but it has been a knowledge, whereas now it has become a fact. It's only really happened since 1970. So what Sahaja Yoga is talking about is very ancient, but the actual practice of it is very new.
Oh, what does it actually mean?
Sahaja means born with, or it can mean spontaneous. So the core of Sahaja Yoga, if you like, is that we have born within us a force, a power, a life force, or, you know, there are all sorts of words for these sort of things. It has always been there. It resides in the sacrum bone, which is at the base of the spine. And that in itself is interesting, because the Greeks obviously knew there was something strange about this sacrum bone, because they called it sacred. And this life force, it's known as Kundalini in Sanskrit, has recently been activated in 1970. Before that, people tried to get this activation of the Kundalini. They did all sorts of strange things, like living in caves in the Himalayas and standing in rivers with their hands above their heads, and all very bizarre things to try and cleanse themselves and try and make themselves into, get themselves into a state where they were able, they hoped, to raise this Kundalini. Usually, I'm afraid, with very little result. I think Zen Buddhism, I always get this figure wrong, but I think Zen Buddhism has had 12 people in 600 years, or 6 people in 1200 years, it really doesn't make very much difference, who have actually achieved this. In other words, it was until 1970 an almost impossibility. And the point that they were all trying to reach was that they knew that if they raised this force, this Kundalini, if they could get it to rise within them, then they would achieve yoga. And the word yoga means union. So then next question is union with what? Union with what makes the world go round, really. It's that something, that all-pervading vibration, if you like, that seems to exist in everything. It doesn't matter what we look at. If we've got a good enough microscope, we can see that everything vibrates. Everything that's living vibrates. If you look at something that's dead, it is no longer vibrating. This means that there is a something in the universe that causes life, if you like. And this is the thing that they were trying to achieve, a union with this vibration. They knew about it. People have known about it for thousands of years, but they didn't know how to achieve this union. They knew that if they could raise this Kundalini, which existed in the base of the spine, then they would be able to be plugged in, if you like, to the power grid of the universe. But they didn't know how to do it. And so they went to all these bizarre ways of, well, really mistreating themselves, in the hope that by purifying themselves through extreme behaviour, really, that they would be in a state whereby this would occur. And occasionally it did. The other way was to get yourself a guru or a master. And after 20, 30 years of hard work, you might achieve your realization or the raising of this Kundalini. But again, it was very, very seldom that it ever happened.
Yes, well, the point here I'd like to ask is, how did they know that they had it anyway? What was the indications?
One of the interesting things about Sahaja Yoga is that it doesn't require you to believe anything. We have a saying, which was given to us actually by Sri Mataji, that truth is felt on your central nervous system when it finally boils down to hard fact. If you want to know whether something is true or not, you have to experience it. You cannot rely on somebody else telling you that so-and-so is correct, because it may not be. And many of the religions and ideas and philosophies of the world have gone down this path of relying on faith. There is an element of faith in everything, sure, but you must be able to prove to yourself in some way that what you believe is in fact true. Now in Sahaja Yoga, when you get this enlightenment, when you get this rising of the Kundalini, you do feel something on your central nervous system. Now, I know this sounds wild and rather unexpected, but you do feel a coolness emanating from the top of your head.
Is this the same for everybody?
Yes, everybody who gets their self-realization feels this. They may feel it in their hands, in the palms of their hands. They may feel it in the palms of their hands and the top of their head. Some people feel it all over them. But it is generally described as a coolness. Now, this is interesting because if you read the Christian Bible, you see references to the cool wind of the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit. If you read the Quran, you see references to a thing called the Ruh, which is again a cool wind. If you are a Hindu, you will see references to a thing called Chaitanya, which again is a coolness. Now, this means that people down through the ages have recognized and have known, because of these few people who managed it, that there was a something, and they recognized it also as being a coolness when they experienced this. And this is what is happening now. There are thousands of people all over the world who are actually experiencing this coolness.
At the same time that's occurring, do they feel anything mentally, any changes in their mental state?
Usually immense peace when they get it. You can get someone who is really rattled, really busy. If they can slow down enough to get this, to allow their Kundalini to rise, you'll find they will sit there very, very quietly. They don't talk, they don't really do anything, just sit there. Suddenly they've reached a state of peace that they've never known before. We're not saying that Sahaja Yoga is sitting under the banyan tree, gazing at their navel to the end of time. It's not. It's very much a part of the world. But the world has to change, or we're going to destroy ourselves. The path that Kundalini opens for us is a way of living in the present. We either live in the past or we live in the future. At the present time, we tend to do this. We're either people who are looking over our shoulders all the time, bemoaning the things we did do or didn't do, or we are people who are busy changing the world in our minds and then dropping over into the other side because our plans don't work. So we get people who swing from one side to the other. But in fact, the only thing we can really do is live in the present. We can't alter the past, not 1 second of it.
So people who are involved with Sahaja Yoga mostly live in the present?
We are trying to. Let's put it that way. We're not always successful because the past exists in our minds very strongly at times.
Yes, old habits die hard, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
But as you practice Sahaja Yoga more and more, well, then you live in the present more and more, and it's just a being. It's a becoming, and your life changes gradually, but in a very permanent way, because you enjoy everything of the now. And they, perhaps bad habits that you've gathered as you've gone along in your life, they fall away in a very natural way. If you're on drugs, the desire just goes. It isn't a coming down or a very painful process. It's the need for them just falls away. If you're a drinker of alcohol, you just don't have that need anymore. Smoking, it just goes away. The desire just goes away. And of course, drugs, be they hard or soft or otherwise, it just happens. The need is not there. It simply isn't there anymore. And that's when you have this centre path.
So it must require a lot of faith and trust to...
Not that so much, because we really do say, as Stephen was saying before, that you should be the scientist, and you check it yourself, and you just feel very much in harmony, and you live a very enlightened way of life, a very normal way of life, without the need for boosts from drugs, alcohol, nicotine, or anything like that. It's a very, very natural thing. It has to be a natural thing because that's the only way to go, we believe.
So this, you feel, is mainly achieved by raising the Kundalini, or do you help that with meditation?
Oh yes, meditation, I suppose, we would say would be the key thing that we do in Sahaja Yoga. We have cleansing techniques, sure, because we are living in the world and we go out to to work or we go wherever we go, we collect a certain amount of the environment within ourselves, if you understand what I mean. We need to cleanse that. But the real cleansing is in meditation. We meditate every day, usually about 5:30 in the morning. We do. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Now, you're talking about most of the people who are involved in Sahaja Yoga are achieving this ability to raise the Kundalini. What is this gift that Sri Mataji has that nobody else has been able to bring forth?
I think it's something she was born with. She describes it rather well, I think, in terms of a candle. If I give you a candle and I don't give you a box of matches or some flame, you can't light that candle. It's no use to you. But if I produce a box of matches and light that candle, then you, in turn, are able to light as many candles as I like to give you. In a sense, she was born with her candle already lit, so that everybody she comes into contact with, they all have this candle, this Kundalini lying asleep. But because her candle is lit, she can enlighten your candle. And then once your candle is lit, then of course you can also give people realization. You can also raise their Kundalini.
And of course she herself is the epitome of all these qualities that we're talking about. To meet her and be with her is quite a unique experience. So she's the perfect example of all these tremendous balance, harmonious enlightenment, and just her own life and her own being reflects these things all the time.
Have you met her yourself?
Yes, yes, most certainly. She's in Sydney now, and we have we have 9 ashrams in Sydney, and she's stopping in one at the moment, and she's in Sydney for 6 days, and then she goes to Melbourne after that, then New Zealand, and so on and so forth. So yes, being with her is quite an experience.
Yes, it would have been quite exciting just anticipating her visit.
Very
what was it
much
like
so.
when you actually did meet her?
Well, the first time when I met her, it was like coming home. It was that sort of feeling, an immense sigh of relief. It was like meeting a very beautiful and clear light. And then I knew that all the things I've been searching for, I'd found. It sounds a bit strange to say it, but that was just it. I just knew this was, I'm home at last. And such is this incredible being. She really is.
And so she left you with this beautiful sense of peace.
Yes, and as we all have our freedom of choice. So we have, once we get our realization, we then have the choice to keep on with it or not. As it develops, of course, it just gets deeper and deeper, and you practice it. And the better you practice it, the more you practice it, the better you are at it. That's what it's all about. There's never forced on you. It's very much, if it has aspects of the divine, which it does, well then it's something that you must find out for yourself. You must practice it yourself. You can't force anyone to do it. Of course not.
And how does this help you with everyday life?
Well, it makes a unique difference, because instead of being subject to the pressures of life and the many, shall we say, temptations that come your way in a materialistic Western world, you manage them all. Once again, the desires for these things are no longer there. So always there's a balance, always there's a calmness, always there's harmony within you. And you work better. In fact, you do a lot more work because you're working without these distractions. And it's just very straight, very clear, and very calm all the time. I mean, myself, in my own job, where I used to have to work 6 days a week, I now achieve it in 5, if you like. But at a very harmonious state, and I'm much more efficient. And
enjoy your work more, presumably?
Enormously. I've been a Sahaja Yoga for 6 years, and I've had many promotions in my job since. And that's totally due to Sahaja Yoga and Srimataji Nirmaladevi.
Yes. Now, of course, this was started in 1970. What was Shri Mataji doing before then?
Well, actually, it's quite interesting, because she was virtually learning what human beings are all about. So she married. She had 2 children. She says she realized at an early age that she had this ability, but the thing that she had to perfect, the thing that she had to understand how to achieve, was the raising of this Kundalini, not on a one-to-one basis, but en masse. And in 1970 she made that breakthrough, on the 5th of May actually, so we're very close to the anniversary. We've all been down in Thredbo's, in fact, commemorating that. And so she knows what makes us tick. And it also means, of course, that Sahaja Yoga is not one of these things that sort of says you should renounce the world. We say you should live in the world, but you should help the world to perfect itself and to cure itself. And so we don't say, thou shalt not, to anything, really. Except, I suppose, if we say anything, we do say thou shalt not continue without meditating, because without that you lose this connection. Meditation keeps that connection alive. Otherwise it withers.
Now, of course, she'll be speaking in Sydney on May the 7th and 8th, which is so close. Tomorrow, of course.
Tomorrow and Friday.
Yes, at the State Theatre, which is in Market Street, and of course the program will be starting at 7 p.m. What will actually be happening on the night?
Well, generally these programs are in 2 parts. They initially, Srimataji explains a little about Sahaja Yoga, the mechanisms within us, this Kundalini particularly. She explains that, in fact, she explains why we are as we are today. She explains that because we do certain things, because we stray, if you like, from the blueprint that has been set down for human beings, that it eventually expresses itself as a physical ailment of one sort or another. And this means, of course, that if you correct that imbalance, then the physical ailment will go. And we have seen many, many examples of this. Literally anything that can go wrong with a human being can be corrected if you follow the right principles and the right path. Nothing is incurable. The only thing that is incurable is a dead cell or a dead nerve. You can't replace that, of course. So she explains that, and then at the end of the program she goes through a little routine in which she gives self-realization. She awakens this Kundalini in the audience. And last time she was here, there were over 1,000 people in the Masonic Hall, and a great many of those felt this sensation. Now, what they did with it afterwards, of course, was entirely up to them. We have this thing called free will, and nobody will override that. We cannot be made to do anything. In fact, it's quite interesting that when she gives the self-realization session at the end of a program, she actually says this, that I cannot force this on you. You must want it. You must ask for it. In other words, you must be prepared to admit what Buddha did. It's interesting, the other half of your program. We say in Sahaja Yoga that all the great religions are connected. They're all branches on the one tree. They've all the founders of these religions came at a special time, in a special place, for a particular reason. And Buddha is one of them, of course. Buddha's life is interesting in that he tried every way he could think of to get this enlightenment, to get this realization, to raise his Kundalini, in other words, without success. And it was only when he sat down and said, I can't do it. I simply can't do it. That it happened. It happened spontaneously, and that, of course, is what Sahaj means, spontaneous.
That really sounds interesting, and of course tomorrow night is the first of her presentations here in Sydney. Tomorrow night, Thursday, and of course Friday night at the State Theatre, which is in Market Street, starting at 7 p.m, and it costs nothing.
No. One of the things about Sahaja Yoga is that it cannot cost anything. As Srimataji says, how can you pay for the divine? It is something that comes from beyond our ken. You can't pay for it, nobody owns it. All we can do is pass it on.
Right. Thank you very much. I've been speaking to Stephen Taylor and James Blakely from the Sahaja Yoga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well done. I was thinking there's one point which you can tell them, that you see, human awareness is not at its best, is not at its absolute. So what is the evolutionary process is working, and because of that natural evolutionary process, the time has come for many to break through. Then that goes into their head, I think, better. That is one point. And I was thinking, why not have Rustam for tomorrow's interview, Rustam and him, for tomorrow's 8:30 interview. You can say that. This is a artist coming all the way from Riyadh and all that. So you could have them for the interview tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
8:30. Yes, of course.
Actually, Sri Mother, between your radio interview tomorrow and the television, there is 1.5 hours. And if it would be possible, we could take you to the man himself in that 1.5 hours.
1.5 hours between my interview.
Between the ABC interview at 10 o'clock and the Ray Martin show at 12 o'clock.
Yes, that's true, but there's one 8:31 which.
That's the same one.
That's the,
That's at 10
instead of
o'clock.
at 8:30, no, it's not 10 o'clock.
That's the one, they have put it at 10 o'clock.
Well, that's the one today, now, they put it at 8:30, but we could stop that 8:30 and between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock in the car, take you to the radio station instead of them coming out here, because we will be in the city of Sydney, we'll be in the city at 10 o'clock at the ABC.
All right,
Is it-
in between then we can do
Yes.
that more. Yes, it's a
He's very anxious. He's very
It's-
anxious to do it.
nice marathon working. I like it. It's very good. It can work out. It's not difficult that way. We can, once we are in the city, we can do from one to another to another.
Yeah.
That's good. So now should we go out for a while?
Yes, we will take
And we'll be back soon. Don't worry about lunch. We'll have some lunch somewhere outside. And we'll be back here for a little bit afterwards. अजय, अभय तुमच्याबद्दल सांगायचं म्हणजे तुम्ही काल आले नाही परत प्रोग्रामला. अशा वेळेला जे मी बोलू शकेन तुमच्याशी.
जी
आणखी इथे येऊन विचित्रासारखं वागून चालत नाही.
जय
काय तुमचं म्हणजे आधीच ते मला वाटतं हे काही गांधी आश्रमाचा प्रकार आहे तुमच्यात. ते लोक सगळे स्वतःला अगदी राजे महाराजे समजतात.
जय
तिकडे ती Tahan pala ta?
Yes.
Kalau simple tamat,